Okay, good morning and welcome to a beginning keyboard. John Havens here. We had a beginning lesson here a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully everybody has their books. So if you'll turn your book to page 4, that's where we'll begin. They talk about taking care of your hands, and this is very important. Especially we use our hands for all kinds of things, but we're going to be using them differently now. So especially for people who've never played a piano or a keyboard before, this is very important. So if you look on page 4 in the very beginning there, they talk about dangling your wrists and shaking your hands out. So this is very important if you do this kind of warm-up before you start practicing. I know some of you don't have keyboards, and this whole thing is going to be a challenge in the beginning, but whatever we can do and whatever we can learn from now while we're not getting together is going to be good for everybody. So, okay, so one of the first things they do is they talk about making a fist. And because in music, counting is so important, one of the things they start off with is counting. So if you're making a fist tight and count 1, 2, well, I prefer counting 1, 2, 3, 4. And when they say, snap your fingers out, I say, don't be snapping anything because we're senior citizens here, okay? The last thing we need to do is be snapping anything. So just gently put your fingers back out and count to 1, 2, 3, 4, back into a clenched fist, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can do that as many times as comfortable. So, and then the same thing, shaking your wrists out, and then turning it over and making a fist because your wrist and forearm are in a different position, whether you're this way or this way. So same thing, 1, 2, 3, 4, and no snapping. We don't want to hurt you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then shake them out. And then down below here, they continue that with some deep breathing. I think deep breathing is important, but what they're doing is, I think, 3 deep breaths, and of course, I do deep breathing for 20 minutes, but that's another story, so okay. Okay, so if you go to page 6, it shows you how to sit at the piano or the keyboard, or if you have nothing, at your kitchen table, or maybe you have a TV tray. That might be easier if you don't have anything. So we're going to do the best that we can not having a keyboard for some of you, and for some of you who I understand have pianos. How nice that must be. So lean slightly forward. So you want to find a comfortable position to where your elbows are just a little bit higher than the keyboard, and this is something that you may negotiate over time as you're spending more time at the keyboard. But so your elbows, like they say, slightly higher than the keys. The bench, you want it comfortable so where you can reach the keys. And then you want your feet flat on the floor because now we don't have one right now because we don't need one, but there will be a sustain pedal that we'll be plugging in a little bit later on when we get to that point. Right now we don't need that. Okay, the next thing is your, let me say that especially in the beginning, but even later on when you're reading music that doesn't give you any indication of what fingers to use, fingering is really important, because when you start moving up and down the keyboard, the finger that you use for one particular note makes it easier to play the notes around it, depending on what's coming next. So the key is, with the right hand, the number one, we'll just call it finger, is your thumb, and then your index finger is 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the left hand, it's the same thing. The thumb is the first finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is really important in terms of the fingering, and you'll see as we go along that fingering is so important. Now, they talk about understanding piano tones, but since this is a keyboard class, I'm just going to skip that because that's not particularly important to us right now. Now, if you remember the first lesson I gave you, I talked about the language, I talked about the alphabet, that there's only 7 letters of the alphabet that we're using, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And from that, it just repeats. So the important thing to know is that you've got the white keys and you've got the black keys, but it's the white keys that are the ones that have the letter name. And the positioning, if you look at your keyboard or if you look at page 8, either way, the important thing to understand is that the black keys are broken up into groups of 3 and 2. 3 and 2. That pattern all the way up and down the keyboard. And so you can, when you know where a particular key is, you can easily identify it by once you understand the makeup of the black keys in relation to the white keys. So just for example, now this keyboard, okay, the middle C is not exactly in the middle of the keyboard, but it's set up as close as they can get with a limited number of octaves, okay? And so middle C is right here, and if you look right here, this is C. Well, the first group of black keys, there are 2. So middle C, any place on the keyboard, is right there directly to the left of the first set of 2 black keys, okay? So you can always find C any place on the piano when you know that that's where it is. And so there are relationships. If you see that, okay, this is middle C, now between the 3 black keys and the 2 black keys, there are 2 white keys, okay? B and C. Now, any place on the keyboard, B and C will be between the 3 black keys and the 2 black keys. So you always know where B and C are. And the same goes for that split between the 2 black keys and the 3 black keys. You have 2 white keys between there. That's E and F. So any place on the keyboard, E and F will be in that same location. And so it makes it easier, even when you're beginning to learn how to play, to know where things are. And so I like the relationship of landmarks. And so these are like landmarks. I mean, you can be driving down the road and you need to make a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn, and you can't see the street sign. Well, if you know what the landmarks are, you always know where you are. And so it's the same with the keyboard. If you know that C is right there and E is right there, you're already on your way. So there are only 7 letters, as we talked about last time. The 8th letter will be a repeat. So if you go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, there's your 7 letters, and then the 8th one is an octave. And so it's C to C, or D to D, or E to E. So an octave is from that first letter to the repeat of that letter, because there are only 7 different alphabetic letters, A through G. Okay, so going up the keyboard, everything gets higher. Going down the keyboard, everything goes lower. So, hopefully you've looked over pages 8 and 9. It shows you about that. And then the next thing we're going to get into is, again, this is a little more of an isometric type of an exercise where you press gently, right? We're seniors here now, right? So pressing together and then curving your fingers together so that your tips are together, and then again counting as you press your fingers together to help strengthen your fingers, because especially the 4th and 5th finger on both hands are the weakest fingers, and so anything that you can do to strengthen those up is very good. So we begin by, we're going to be pressing our middle fingers together for a count of 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to go to the second finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then to the 4th finger. And you can do this in any arrangement that you want, okay? It doesn't matter as long as you cover all of your fingers. So your 4th finger, 1, 2, 3, 4, while you're pushing. Your thumbs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and your little fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's important that you do that a few times, as much as you feel comfortable or that you need, depending on how much you've been using your hands in the last few years. So the next thing is the hand massage. So massaging your fingers. And the other thing they talk about too while we're doing this is a lot of times soaking your hands in warm water helps to get the blood circulating and helps to loosen up your fingers. So a lot of times I do it after I wash dishes. So your fingers and then your palms, and then I like to do my thumb as well. So you do that with both hands. And then, so then I do my thumb. They don't talk about thumbs here, but. So then if we go to page 11, so they give you reasons why you curve your fingers. And so when you look at example 2, when you spread your fingers onto the keyboard, if they're flat, your thumb isn't even close to the key. So as soon as you curve your fingers, your thumb lines right up. And so, anyway. Oh, and very important, which you probably already know, but if you've never played a keyboard, you might not know this, and that is, excuse me, keep your fingernails short, because when your fingernails are long, you're going to be sliding all over the place because these keys are a little slick. Okay, so, and when we go to page 12, okay, so so if you don't have a keyboard, and if you don't, I've seen these paper keyboards that you can put your hands on when you don't have a keyboard, but unless you have something like that, now you can make your own if you use the example either on page 8 or on page 12. It would also teach you the separation between the white keys and the black keys. And if you made yourself a little keyboard of just no more than 4 octaves, you would at least be able to put your thumb and finger on the right key. But if you don't have that right now, the important thing is for you to recognize that most lessons begin on middle C, and so that's where we're going to start. And so middle C with the first finger, which is your thumb, but we're just going to call them fingers. So this is about fingering. So if you go, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is also, and one of the things that you want to do is, number one, count, but also as you're learning the notes, to call out the notes either out loud or to yourself. C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G. So then we go down below to basically the first exercise for fingering, and it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, in the next page, they get to the notes, but since we're starting with a quarter note, the quarter note is solid with a stem. So it goes. So if you just follow the exercise, so you can go E, C, D, E, F, G on one of them, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the other one, or G, F, E, D, C. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so now on page 13, they actually get into the kind of notes that we're beginning with, which is the quarter note, which is what we just did, and the half note looks just like the quarter note, only it's hollow. It's not solid. So that's the difference. So when you look at the middle of the page, they show you bar lines. Now, when you look at page 12 at the treble clef there are no lines, there are no bar lines. The bar lines separate a measure, and a measure will determine, for example, I guess I could just, it's probably on the next page, but the time signature, which is like, for example, 4/4 time, the bottom 4 is the value, which is in this case a quarter note, and the 4 above means that there are 4 beats to the measure, that measure being between the beginning of the one and the bar line. Each bar line represents a measure, and so if you're in 4/4 time, you're going to have 4 beats to the measure, and that can be divided up in a number of ways. In the beginning, it'll be very simple. Right now, and you look down below, there are mostly quarter notes and some half notes. So for example, now this one, they're not starting on C because the first line in the treble clef at the bottom, the first line going from the bottom up, is E. So if you're going to play what's towards the bottom of the page on 13, it's E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C, C, D, E, E, D, C. No, I'm sorry. So that last measure is E, D, D, not C. So let's play that again. So E, E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C, C, D, E, E, D, D. And that last D was a half note, so it has twice the value. And then if you go down below to the next one, so it's going to be similar but a little bit different. So let's count it this time. So the counting will be the fingers that you're using. So 3, 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 1. So the other one ended on D, this one ended on C. So E, E, F, G, G, F, E, D, C, C, D, E, D, C, C. Okay? So, if we go to page 14, you will see the sign for the treble clef, which is also sometimes called the G clef. And it shows you, and if you'll remember from lesson 1, where it curls because it's shaped like the letter capital G, and then it's made very fancy. But where it goes around, that is the G line. So they give you an opportunity here to practice that. And then down below, they give you an opportunity to write in the various notes along the way. And this is good practice for you to learn as you're learning how to read. So there's that one. So they don't have any bar lines, if you notice here, so you can write in those bar lines for every, if it's a 4/4 time signature. And then the next one. So let's read that one. So G, E, F, D, E, C, E, D, F, E, G. And let's count this one. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5. Or C, C, D, D, E, E, F, F, G, G. Okay? Okay, so now we're going to move to the left hand, and that's the bass clef. And if you'll recall when I drew that out last time, you have this image, and then the second line from the top in the bass clef is a dot above and a dot below the line which is F. And so starting at C, down here, an octave below middle C, you have C, E, E, F, G, and you're dealing with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See, when we were in the treble clef, C was the first finger, where in the left hand, C in this case is in the little finger is in the fifth, so it's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. C, D, E, F, G, and you can see middle C right here. So it's one octave below middle C. So your fingering then in a warm-up here is, so we're starting with G, G, F, E, D, C, right? So G, F, E, D, C. Also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then going the other way from 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G. Now the important thing, if you can, try to remember where things are. So middle C up here, I'm going to just go back for a moment. Oh, okay, we can just use this one. So middle C right here, you can't, okay, so here's middle C. Okay, wait, it's, okay, what I'm trying to do here is, okay, when you have the three lines, well, that's not going to work. So what I'm trying to say is we don't have the separation yet here between the, so here's the grand staff. Go over to page 20 just for a minute, and there is a ledger line that goes between the treble clef and the bass clef, and that is your middle C right there. Now that can be in the middle, or it can be up here, or it can be down here, as long as it's between the two clefs. So that's how you know what middle C is. Okay, so let's go back to the last one here. And so it's G, F, E, D, C, C, D, E, F, G. So you can play those a few times until you feel comfortable, but try to see where the notes are in relation to the written notes. So, so if we go to page 17, so we have the quarter note, we have the half note, and now we're going to do the longest note, which is a whole note. And the difference between the whole note is that it's larger, it's a circle, but it is not filled in, but it doesn't have a stem, so it's easy to see. Okay, so here's an example of using, we're going to start counting, and you can clap to count for a note. For example, if you look at this first one here, you have 4 quarter notes in that measure, so the counting would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can do this as slowly or as fast as you need to. It's up to you. In the second measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you hold those notes, like the half note and the whole note. So here's Ira Lee, which interestingly enough is the melody made into Love Me Tender. And so, so the rhythm, counting out loud, so if you look here, we've got 4 quarter notes, 2 quarters and a half, 4 quarter notes, and then a whole note. Same here and there, okay? Now we're just using the left hand, but we're going to begin by counting. So this is 4/4 time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the bottom one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it says you can play or sing or say the finger numbers. So let's do that. So we've got 5, 2, 3, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 5, 2, 3, 2, 1, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Okay, so you can play and count. 1, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can name the notes. C, F, E, F, G, D, G, F, E, D, E, F, C, F, E, F, G, D, G, F, E, D, E, F. Okay? Okay, so here it shows you where I talked about early when you have 2 black keys, 3 white keys. Right to the left of the 3 black keys is F, right? And there it is in the treble clef. So it gives you an opportunity to practice the clef sign, and down below you can put in the name of the notes. And I know sometimes this kind of stuff is boring, maybe, but the more that you can do that, the easier it will be for you to learn how to read. And believe me, the bottom line is to learn how to play a new piece of music, you've got to know how to read. And if you can't read, it really can be a struggle. So anyway, so there are those notes and spaces here. Again, it's an opportunity for you to learn how to read. So please take advantage of that. So now on page 20, back to page 20, because we went there shortly, you have the bass staff, the treble staff, or the bass clef and the treble clef, and it shows you the relationship between where they are, where we were, C here, middle C here, and again, middle C is that ledger line directly between the treble clef and the bass clef. And there is one space above it and one space below it before you get into either of the clefs. So here it talks about your time signature again, 4 beats to the measure, a quarter note gets 1 beat. Okay, so the whole thing, the treble clef and the bass clef, when it is connected with a brace, then that is your grand staff. And that's mostly what we'll be dealing with from here on out. So one of the first rests that they come up with here is a whole rest. So if you look at the treble clef, you have 4 notes. If you look at the bass clef, there are no notes, but there is the one sign, which is a whole rest, and that is facing below the line. In this case, it's the F line. So, again, they want you to clap and count. So if we're looking at the first, at the treble clef, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4. The next measure, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the left hand, we didn't use it at all because each measure had a whole rest. And so these rests are important. As you see, they start using them right away on page 21. Okay, so you can go C, D, E, F, G, 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 F, E, D, C, C, C. Or you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we go to the left hand in the bass clef, and all of the rests are in the treble clef, so we won't be playing anything with the right hand, and we'll be going C, D, E, F, G, 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 F, E, D, C, C, C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, for the first time, we have what is called a repeat sign. And in the middle, above and below the middle of the treble clef at the end and the middle line of the bass clef, at the very end, when you see those dots, that means to repeat. So you'd go back and repeat that. And then you get to the end and you repeat, and then you repeat, and you get so tired of repeating that, no, one time, just repeat. Okay. So if we go on the very first kind of piece here called Rock Along on page 21, you're in 4/4 time. Again, the bass clef is all whole rests, so all we're dealing with is the treble clef. So C, C, E, G, E, G, C, 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 or 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So then you go down here, and all the whole rests are in the treble clef. So as you play the bass clef, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. C, C, E, G, E, G, C, C, C. Okay, and then the next piece here, the Mexican hat dance. Again, we'll begin with just the bass clef, and then it will go up to the treble clef. So now we are introducing now a quarter rest, and that's what this symbol is right here. It's very unusual, but it's very easy to spot. So that is a quarter rest. So if you look at this first measure, G, E, so the G is a half note, so 2 beats, 1 beat on the E, and then you have a quarter rest. So it'll be like 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest. Okay, so G, E, G, E, D, E, So then we'll go to the next grand staff, and we begin with G up here, and as you can see, all of the bass clef are whole rests, and then you have 2 quarter rests in the first 2 measures. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest, 1, 2, 3, rest. G, E, G, E, D, E, F, D, C. Okay? Okay, so anyway, that's hopefully for those who don't have keyboards, you can figure something out, and if you can make yourself a little, draw yourself out a keyboard. And it sounds like a lot of work, but I'll tell you something, the bottom line is it will help you learn to read. And the whole, I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to read, because that's how you learn. And to learn a new piece of music, if it's too much of a struggle because you can't read, it'll be hard for you to continue. So anything that I can do to help you improve your reading, I'm going to do. So that's all for now. See you next time. Thank you very much.